Hi, I'm Peter Nixon, and I'm delighted to be sharing an introduction to dialogue behaviors to the students of the Nobel Igniter Fellowship Program. In a longer program, I would include these in a course I call How to Talk So People Listen and How to Listen So People Talk. But actually, there's more than just speaking and listening when it comes to dialogue behaviors. So let me explain. I refer to the 5 categories of behaviors as PRESA. That's a simple learning mnemonic, which I have found very useful. There's a category of behaviors referring to presence, which I will explain. There's a category of behaviors referring to paying respect between people in dialogue, being respectful of each other. There's a category of behaviors related to expression, and there's a category of behaviors related to suspending your thoughts and assumptions. And finally, a category of behaviors related to absorbing the messages that are being sent by the other party. You could be listening, you could be watching their body language, or just getting a feel, an intuition for what they're trying to say. All of these combined we refer to as dialogue skills or dialogue behaviors. And I'm choosing one for each of the 5 categories to teach you today. The first category of presence is just like the picture shows, somebody who sits in a yoga position to meditate, watching the beauty of a Canadian lake, maybe feeling very present with the current moment. And the behavior that I recommend that you practice is to stop whatever you are doing, to look at the other person, to listen deeply to what they are saying and how they are saying it, and what emotions they are expressing to you. And the benefit of this, if you do it well, is, of course, it creates a space for the other person to connect the words and feelings that they sometimes only connect once they open up and share with another person. So you're giving them a gift, and you're also learning valuable information at the same time. The other important thing you need to know is, why don't we do this more often? Well, we tend to be overly focused on our own needs, our own thoughts, and our own tasks, so we don't stop and focus on the other party. And that other party may be a friend or a loved one or a work colleague sitting right in front of you. And so I encourage you, practice this behavior this week, and you'll find things go much, much better. The second set of dialogue behaviors involve being respectful of each other in a dialogue. But this is incredibly important for senior people being respectful of junior people, because when the person speaking doesn't feel that the person listening is respecting them, they simply won't speak up. And that prevents the listener, or often the boss, from knowing what's really going on. So my recommendation is to be inclusive of others, regardless of whatever diversity separates you. And that diversity might be seniority, it might be gender, it might be age, it might be experience, it might be educational qualifications, number of years in the company, the culture that they come from, political insiders. You know, they're all important, but if there's no respect, the biggest loser is the listener, because the speaker simply won't speak up. So let me share. Why don't we do this? Well, the number one blocker that we have found in our research, why people don't respect others, is that they're simply different. It's that diversity thing. You may feel that they're less experienced, that they're less educated, or less articulate, or for whatever reason, race, color, language, motivational style, political philosophy, whatever it is, beliefs. So you simply don't want to listen. You don't respect them. Even if you say you respect them and you don't create space to listen, you show that you don't respect them. So be inclusive of others, regardless of what diversity separates you. The next behavior is expression or expressing yourself. Dialogue behaviors need to have people speak, and if you don't speak up, that's an issue. So the number one behavior I recommend is to speak your mind and share your feelings without venting rage or anger or lecturing others. Now, why don't we do that? What's the number one problem? Well, the number one problem, of course, is that the speaker's unclear about what they think or feel about a subject. And when they open up, they just simply can't control their emotions. Number one benefit, of course, of expressing themselves is that only if you express yourself and get things out on the table can you start to sort things out and know what's going on. So be careful of being emotionally out of control, because people don't want to listen to you and your message will not be very effective at that point. So if you feel that you can't speak up in a calm, cool, and logical way that's helpful, or at least in a controlled way, even if you're very emotional, it's controlled emotions, then wait, take a time out and do it later. Find a better time and you'll find things go much better. So good luck with expressing and getting others to express, and you'll know what's going on. Thanks. Next category of dialogue behaviors I call suspending. And I have found this category to be the number one most important category for highly intelligent, experienced, and educated people. And that tends to be the hardest because they know the answers. They have the experience, they have the education, and that's why they tend to be in charge. And that's exactly why you need to suspend. So here's what I recommend you do. Because change is constant and clarity at any point in time can only be found through dialogue with the key stakeholders and not in predetermined answers. So you may think you know the answer, but you don't know how other people feel or think about the situation. So it's not about what you know, it's about what you don't know. So suspend what you think you know, create that space to allow other people to open up. The benefit, of course, is that you're going to learn stuff that you never knew and perhaps validate assumptions that you had, but almost inevitably, you're going to learn things that you never realized. It's like opening the window and inhaling fresh air when you suspend your thoughts and emotions and allow others to explain exactly what they think and what they feel. What's the number one blocker that prevents us from doing that? Well, it's really because you think you know, and you're busy and you don't want to take the time. And again, that comes back to my earlier comments about whose needs are being addressed. If it's your needs and it's not their needs, it shows a disrespect as well. So good luck with suspending. Very important category, as I've said, for highly educated, articulate, and experienced people. And you know what? They tend to be the bosses. So that's why when I talk to bosses, I stress this behavior. So important. Good luck. Okay, fifth category of dialogue behaviors I call absorbing. And I call it absorbing because it's really more than listening. You know, sometimes you just have a gut feeling about something. Well, you didn't hear it, but you feel it in your stomach. Or sometimes you watch and you notice somebody's body language. And I like to say that body language never stops talking. So here's what I recommend for absorbing. For this behavior, watch people's body language to check if it validates what they're saying. Then ask a question about what you see in their behavior to double check if your observed assumptions are correct or not. So for example, if they are speaking confidently, but their behavior looks very unsure of themselves and lacking of self-esteem, then you can just ask a question about how do they feel about what they've just said. And persist a little bit, because you're almost always going to be correct if you follow up on the body language more than the words. So important. And as I've done with the others, let me ask the question, what's the number one reason why we don't do this? What's our biggest blocking behavior? Well, our research has found that the number one reason is that the listener doesn't have compassion for the speaker. They don't care. And so they're not being present. They're not asking questions to clarify. They're not suspending their assumptions about what they're seeing and what they're hearing. And this lack of compassion, it really translates into things like, oh, I've heard it all before. They just go on and on. I don't want to waste my time, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a big part of the problem, because again, the needs of the speaker should come before the needs of the listener. So if you want to be a good listener and absorb, you've got to suspend your needs and focus on the needs of the other party. Remember, the optimal outcome is only achieved by getting what you want and helping the others get what they want. All these dialogue behaviors are described and explained in my book on dialogue gap. And if you're interested, you can also access details of this through our training. So best of luck to you. Thank you, and look forward to meeting you, you lucky ones who become fellows.